Overseas, Uber keeps losing court case after court case after court case, and France has now joined in the chorus that Uber simply cannot treat their drivers the way they are treating them. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and we've done this story a few times. Amazingly, in California, the courts ruled in Uber's favor when it came to the arbitration clause. That was considered a big win for Uber. However, overseas, they have not been so lucky. Most notably, the UK has said, no, your drivers are not independent contractors, they are employees. And France, it appears, is taking a very similar stance. But before we talk about that, let's have a word from our sponsors. And today's video is sponsored by Maximo, the rideshare automation app that allows drivers to safely and easily accept ride requests for Uber, Lyft, and Postmates. Whether you drive for a single platform or multiple platforms, Maximo's custom settings can help you drive more efficient, less distracted, and help you maximize your earnings. It will automatically accept one trip, turn off the other apps, and when your trip is over, it will end it, open the other apps, and accept the next trip, all without you having to touch your phone. Use referral code APP60 and get your first month free when you subscribe to Maximo. And from The Telegraph, French court follows UK in ruling against Uber in employment contract case. It says right here, ride-hailing service Uber lost an appeal in France brought by a former driver who wanted to be recognized as a full-time employee. The ruling on Thursday overturns one from last year when a French court decided in favor of Uber, saying its drivers could refuse customers if they wanted to and were not told how many hours to work by the firm. The ruling was hailed as a landmark decision by the plaintiff's attorney, Fabienne Mason, and follows a similar court decision last month in Britain that Uber should give its drivers workers' rights, including the national minimum wage and holiday time. The former driver sued the company in June 2017, 2 months after Uber had deactivated his account, to have his commercial accord reevaluated as an employment contract. He was seeking reimbursement for holidays and expenses as well as contract termination and undeclared work indemnities. Because, of course, as you'll know, as an independent contractor, you don't have vacation time, you don't have sick time, and you don't get unemployment benefits. Now, of course, one of the trade-offs, and of course we do have to stress this, you can get on and off whenever you want. So, for example, I don't work for Uber for months, and then I decided, you know what, Halloween night, I'll drive Uber because it's good money. New Year's Eve, I'll drive Uber. That's good money. I'm bored this night. I'll drive Uber. You can do that on Uber. That has been like at the crux of this whole thing. That has been Uber's biggest and best defense for the independent contractor status. Where they really start to fall short, and I think this is why they're losing more of the cases now than they were 5 years ago, is of course because they have lowered the rates without consulting the drivers. They have, fudged the bonuses to only appeal to people who drive full time. And for that matter, you can get deactivated without a whole lot of effort, to be perfectly honest, and that is not right. And that's why people are pushing more and more against Uber, and the more Uber squeezes them, the more they say you can't use that referral code, you can't do this, you can't do that, that's when you see the legal system start to push back a little bit more. The Paris court determined the contract between Uber and the former driver was an employee contract on the basis of the driver being dependent on the ride-hailing service for work. That is interesting. There you have some protest pictures. The court further pointed out that the plaintiff had signed a registration partnership with the company, which did not give him the freedom to choose his clients or charge his own rates. Again, this is where it starts getting really complicated. Thereby, the court ruled that Uber had control over the driver. In response to the ruling, Uber announced that it will reappeal the ruling in La Cour de Cassation, France's highest appeal court. I am sorry if I mispronounced that. An Uber spokesperson said that the repeal was to preserve flexibility where the drivers can decide to connect in real time without any requirement of exclusivity. Yeah, it's actually really there to preserve that your business model is in fact preserved. But, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, a side effect of that would be, the driver's right to choose would in fact be preserved. So I'll grant you that. Quote, drivers choose to use the Uber application for the freedom to connect to it when they want. Well, that's one of the reasons. The other reason, of course, is to make money, but considering how you keep dropping the rates, that's apparently not very high on your mind. Uber has long maintained it is simply a service provider connecting people needing a ride with drivers, either amateurs or professionals, depending on the country, in about 630 cities worldwide. Yeah, that is still so not the case. And I've used this example a long time. Uber can't keep saying we just bridge the gap while exerting the amount of control that they do, from the rates to the distance to the promotions to whether or not you could actually even share your promotional referral code. I always use eBay as a good example. eBay is a platform. You can sell anything you want, but eBay does not put a whole lot of restrictions on you. I mean, they put a few, like if you're going to, like, for example, sell a Blu-ray on, like, they limit you to like a $4 shipping thing, which is, you know, fine because of the whole $60 shipping situation they have. But for the most part, I can say, hey, I would like to sell this for $1. Which it might have a reasonable chance of selling. Or I could say, hey, you know what? I want to charge the $100 for this. At which point, good luck, I'm probably not going to sell it. Or I can offer free shipping or no free shipping. Or I could charge for shipping. I can choose whether to do the flat first-class shipping, of which I am limited to $4. Or I could do zip code-based priority mail shipping, which will cost a lot more. Which I would never do for something like this, because this is, you know, I got this at the Dollar Tree store today, just to let you know. So eBay is truly a platform that connects, and you have a myriad of possibilities of ways you can list. You can even choose not to have photos if you want, although that is highly discouraged, even just on a person-to-person basis. Yet Uber puts so much control. I would actually argue really the only thing that you do have freedom on is when you get on and when you get off. They don't show you how far the trip is in the most cases. They don't tell you where you're going to go in most cases. In fact, almost all cases. You can't control the rates. Heck, you can't even cancel a certain amount of rate times. And for a long time, if you didn't accept a certain amount, you would get deactivated. That has since been taken away. I admit that. But the fact that they actually controlled that at one point says a lot. Heck, now they're not even being honest about what you are making. And that's why the whole upfront pricing, the flat surge, is still the biggest sticking point. Aside from the fact that how much more money Uber's taking, way more than 20%, but the reason it's become such a sticking point is because Uber is not being honest with how much the passenger is paying for the ride and how much you are getting. Uber asserts way too much control over the driver, and that's why they keep losing these cases. Continuing, the European Court of Justice views the ride-hailing service as a transportation service for which the same regulations on traditional taxis and other ride providers also apply. And I guess that's the end of the article, actually. So what's this mean? Well, obviously it means in France, the legal battle is going to go on. Uber will continue to fight this. At one point in one of these countries, they will lose a Supreme Court case. And at that point, it will be very interesting to see what they do. It will be interesting to see if my dad's prediction that Uber would rather shut down and go out of business than follow those rules is actually going to be a thing. Because here's the thing, Uber is getting dangerously close to that IPO. Dangerously close. And the early investors want to see the return on that investment. But if they have to start classifying their drivers as employees, they are going to lose even more and more money. Heck, they might even have no choice but to shut down some of the international markets, which will bring in less money. So who knows what's going to happen at this point? Eventually, one of the Supreme Courts will rule against them, and then we're going to find out what happens. Meanwhile, New York keeps having things like, hey, they have to make at least a minimum wage. Hey, you can't have more than this many cars on the road. And so New York's kind of become a testing ground to see what happens with Uber when it is regulated more. Is it still a good service? Do people still like driving for it? Or does the system completely fall apart? This is getting very, very interesting. It's also getting to be a lot of fun. I keep making this video, and sometimes when a story like this comes up, I feel like, okay, I've talked about this. I feel like I'm making the same video over and over again. No doubt, all of the points I've made in today's videos probably have been made at some point before. But here's the thing. They are getting more and more aggressive against Uber. And Uber burned a lot of bridges, and they are still burning bridges. And the fact that they are still pouring billions of dollars into their flying cars when they need to figure out a business model that will work for everyone first, that just speaks volumes. I will say, though, now that we sit here, it dawns on me I was wrong about one thing. Uber is, in fact, still in business in 2019. And I guess for my channel, it's good that they're still in business, even though I've been starting to branch out a little bit. But anyway, that's the story. What do you folks think? Are there anyone from France who are watching this? And if you are watching this, thank you for speaking English. I wish I could speak French. But what do you think about this exactly? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I would love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and it gives you access to my exclusive Patrons-only blog. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.